Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, so like I said, a few months ago, I did a presentation on communication based on the book by Jefferson Fisher called The Next Conversation. And of course, you can't get too much into something like a book because, we only have an hour. But I wanted to continue that a little bit more and talk about connection and confidence, and maybe if we have time, get into like framing a conversation. So we'll see how far we can get. But it's I learned a lot from the book on communication. Hopefully, I'm putting it to practice. And communication seems important to us. I know every word matters when we're speaking, and so I thought it would be a good topic to continue on that. And let's see. So, can you all still see what I was sharing where it says, what is connection?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. Okay, so when we have conversations, sometimes in small talk, you're just passing by somebody and, you just a few words, you're not really making a real connection. You're just acknowledging somebody, right? But to make a real connection when you're communicating, you have to be understanding, be understood, acknowledging the other person, listening. They have to be listening to you, so you can make a real connection, like not just something superficial. People have to be actually listening. You have to be actually listening to them. And so, like, if you're having a lot of what he talks about in the book, it's not just everyday conversations, back and forth, but it's where you're really trying to make, where both sides are really trying to understand something, like we do in the camp meetings and such, where we're on topic and we're trying to communicate a real idea, something um, solid. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have the right word for that, but where we're really trying to make a connection to be understood, topics that are seem to be really important, or that are really important and are really important to us. And in a conversation, if I understand you, but you don't know that I'm understanding you, then you won't connect with me. Or if you understand me, but I don't know that you're understanding me, like it looks like you're not paying attention, or um we just I can't tell that you're understanding me or even listening, then I won't make a connection with you. And so there has to be like a real connection where it's a real one-on-one, paying attention to each other, eye-to-eye contact kind of thing. And so you need both internal in your mind and external process of understanding to make that connection. And see, so, and then connections, it's not just words. I mean, it's not just positive. It's not just, okay, you're getting it. It's like connections can be both positive and negative, happy and sad, easy and difficult. It's just not, all sunshine and flowers, right? It's getting into the deep stuff, that real connection. Y'all know when you've made a connection with somebody where you've had this really good conversation where you just feel like you've really been understood and you've understood them and you've had a real deep connection with somebody. Hopefully you've all had that experience with some people. Let's see. And then a true connection involves sharing information in depth, that where it touches the deepest need for belonging understanding, and expression, where you feel like you've been allowed to express yourself, you've been heard, you've allowed them to express themselves, you've heard them, you both feel like you belong, like you belong to this group, you belong together, that kind of that type of connection. But of course, not every conversation needs a connection. Like when you're in the elevator, you might say hello to acknowledge somebody, but you don't need a really deep connection. Not that you can't have one, but it's not necessary. Not every conversation has to have a connection. And make a quick phone call to, a family member. You don't have to make a deep connection there, just you're just saying hi, or you can, but not every conversation has to have a deep connection. But some conversations are going to be uncomfortable, where you have to get through some misinformation, or you have to tell them something important, but you need to be able to control that conversation mm, where it doesn't the emotion doesn't get out of control, where nobody's hurting each other. You say things with confidence, calmly. You get the point across without hurting somebody else's feelings. So you say it, control and confidence, and you have those conversations anyway. But there's three ways that you can cut off a connection. Like when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to get a point across, maybe even at work, where you're talking to somebody, you're trying to get a point across, and there's three ways you can cut off that connection where people aren't going to get you. And the three ways are through lack of awareness, lack of understanding, and lack of self-assurance. And the lack of awareness would be where you aren't realizing, being aware of your tone of voice, maybe your facial expressions or your verbal filters. So, like maybe, like he is as an example, like you just got off a phone call, and with the recording that you're all, like, oh, say maybe the electrical company, right? And you're kind of frustrated, and you walk out of the hall and you have that facial expression, and then the person walks by you and they think that you have that facial expressions toward them, right? And so they misinterpret how you're feeling about them, right? And so that would be like one of those kind of situations where there's a lack of awareness. And so it's important to be aware of how your facial expressions, especially in a conversation, your tone of voice, the way you're coming off, and your verbal filters, because it's not always what you say. A lot of times it's how you say it that people may misinterpret or totally interpret exactly what you're saying. You might be upset and they think you're upset, but you say you're not upset, even though you are upset, that kind of thing. So you have to be aware of your tone, your facial expressions, and your verbal fillers, as in like I say a few times, and where you're filling space just to make noise. Okay, and then lack of understanding. It comes from when you insist on believing your own biases. So if you've like created, for example, created a presentation based on an application, and you firmly believe this, but people are telling you, well, there's an issue here or there's an issue there, and you're not willing to um, revisit those issues, then trouble comes up when you insist on believing your own biases. And of course, that goes, all the way through, in your life, not just in presentations, but you get, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. When we believe our own biases and we're not willing to um, take in input, and explore those biases. Okay, so but and then like if you're say you're in a conversation with somebody outside the movement and you're trying to get them to understand what you're saying, and you but the harder you push in the way the things that you believe, the harder they could resist. So you have to find like common ground to so they can so you can talk with them so you can understand them, they can understand you, and explain things without pushing, so they don't feel like you're just pushing something off on them, right? You have to, it's better to help them to understand as opposed to just push things off on them. And then let's see, another example would be when neither person makes the effort to understand the other, and it leads to hurtful comments or hurtful feelings. And in the lack of self-assurance, this is where it gets into confidence. So lack of self-assurance. So for a lot of us, including myself, being direct can be difficult because there can be a fear of discomfort and conflict, and this fear can be seen in physically turning like our bodies away, avoiding eye contact, or crossing your arms in front of you. This fear can also show in softening your words and obscuring your true feelings. And these these passive phrases make you approach the conversation indirectly. So some of these passages that soften your words or obstruct your feelings would be something like saying, "Sorry to bother you. I was thinking you could tell me if this isn't going to work." This another example. This probably is a dumb question, but I was just wondering, or and this is why I feel like it could work. Does that make sense? So you're softening these comments instead of just being direct and saying, this is what I believe, you know, and getting feedback, but not apologizing. So you don't need to apologize for your words. Um, so any questions so far?
Yes, I have a thought, Christine.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
Jackie.
Hi, everyone. This is a great subject, especially when there's people in your life
Hmm.
that are hard to communicate with.
Sure.
And, just people out there in general. I mean, yeah, you never really get close in a communicative way with people that you don't know that well, but closer relatives, family members, whatever. And so my thinking is when you know there's a disagreement with someone else on how they think,
Hmm.
especially with the time we're living in now, with so much going on externally, and people have a lot of fear to begin with, for
Right.
what they're seeing, even if they don't have a communication with God or whatever. I mean, but family members that have different thoughts on what's going on in this time. My question is, we can all think about this, how to speak with someone, a family member, that disagrees with you on the politic, if you want to say, because that's the main thing going on. And yet, that conversation is going to lead to an argument, or it could lead to an argument, or no communication on one person's part because they know that's a very touchy subject.
Hmm.
So, how do you approach that? Do you just leave it alone completely? and be assertive and say, well, I know we don't agree on this, so let's just not talk about it.
It's a good
So,
question.
yeah, because I know I'm going through that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, there are others that you could talk to, even though you do disagree, but there's still a willingness to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so uh, my approach more recently has been just to accept the person for who they are and to learn from that person and what they're saying. To not think, well, I have to approach this with, I have to tell them something.
Right.
No, I want to hear what you have to say, regardless of the subject. And that seems to be working for me right now.
Good.
And it opens up an avenue of where they don't get their defenses up.
That's great. Thanks for
And
sharing that.
when the defenses are up, then you know already you've got a wall coming.
Right.
And I don't want to lose the communication completely. I want to be able to still communicate in a very helpful, loving, kind manner, and to let the person know that I care, even though we might disagree. And it seems to me at this point right now, it's working
That's
because there's like a breaking down. The wall is breaking down.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, I just and this first study that you gave on this, I was already going in that direction with some of the principles, if you want to say. So I can see that, just by my own demeanor is not going to cause a wall to be there. And my heart and mind is completely free from feeling that I caused a problem, and caused maybe a person that would have been open that is now shut down. And then it affects so many other things. If you have that wall, regardless of, it's a disagreement because you're not thinking both the same way, but at least you're not shutting it down completely with the person that you lose all communication with them.
Exactly. Wow, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Thank
I
you for
wanted to
sharing
say
that.
that.
I,
I mean, it takes it. I maybe shouldn't say it in this light, but in this way is like, well, I have to go through this with my family members, so I'm a better communicator with others that I'm not real close with.
it's true
So,
though, because you get
yeah,
to
it's
practice.
like a
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's great.
A, yeah, practice in a healthy relationship with another person.
Good. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for
But
sharing
what do
that.
you do when the person doesn't talk at all? Because I'm a talker. I'm very open. And so other people, that I know, they don't talk a lot. And so you don't know what they're thinking. What do you say to them? I mean, it's
Uh,
another thing to think about, but,
yeah,
because everybody's different.
yeah. You, you can just ask them if they want to have a conversation about a certain topic and see if they're interested first. Does that
Exactly.
make, yeah, because if you find a topic that they're interested on, maybe they would do more talking. Some people just don't like, certain types of conversations. They'll shut down. But if you are on a topic that they're interested in, maybe they would have more input.
Exactly. So
But
you listen to what interest is.
yeah, and
That's
ask,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
That's another
that's where I
great
would,
point.
yeah, where I would go. That's what I would do is ask them, are you interested in have a conversation on this or that, and and we'll get into this hopefully later in the frames, but keeping your conversations, important conversations where you're trying to really get into a topic, keep the topic on point, don't just open it up to the whole Bible, but keep it on a certain topic so that
Mhm.
way it's very specific and you would get more out of it as opposed to say the whole Bible and you'd be like all over the place, but keep it on a very specific topic. If you're having an issue with somebody at work, and you need to go over, like some behavior or something, you stay on topic, right? So that way, or there's some sort of problem that y'all need to discuss, you stay on topic. You keep the conversation limited to um, this topic, so that way it doesn't go off into past grievances or such. So that way you can resolve that particular issue and be able to
Exactly.
feel like you've accomplished something. So keep the
Exactly.
topics simple, specific.
Yes, good thoughts, Christine. And my last thought would be just for my own practical experience that I've been going through is being more assertive, in a
Yes.
kind way.
Yeah.
And instead of what has held me back is fear. And that's what I see on four, this fear.
Hmm.
This fear of, oh, what kind of reaction am I going to get? What's that going to lead to?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I better not say that. But
Yeah.
yet, it's overcoming that and coming across in a not a judgmental way in any way, shape, or form, but just being honest in a kind way.
There you go.
And when I need to say something, so that I'm not getting trounced on, whether I do or not. I mean, it's a temptation to react and say something back, but by just overcoming the fear of what I'm going to experience if I say a certain thing to someone.
Exactly. A lot of us have a fear of confrontation, and
Yes.
confrontation would be that reaction that the person would have to what you're saying. And a lot of us have that fear.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you
So,
said,
well, thank
going
you.
into it being assertive but kind is important. Making sure that
Yes.
you're being considerate of the other person's feelings, of how, not try not to get a bad reaction, trying to be kind and not just mean or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for an example is, I just want to bring this subject up. I mean, this is what I'm saying if I'm talking to somebody else that
Uh-huh.
disagrees with me on certain things. Um, and I need to be assertive with that in the right way and give the person the opportunity to speak up and say, hey, okay, I understand where you're coming from.
Hmm.
Because if you don't say anything about how you feel about it, then, how do you ever get that resolved with the person?
Right,
If
right.
there's something being said that needs to be something you're responding to about, I don't agree with that, you know?
Yeah.
So you can agree to disagree,
Yes,
where the
exactly.
other person then knows you just in that area of your life that you don't agree with that.
Exactly.
And
That's good.
and maybe something even said that you don't appreciate what they said.
Yeah.
That's also being assertive with your feelings.
Yeah. And being honest and open about it
Yes,
in a kind way.
yes.
Yeah. Good.
So I'm learning.
Thank you,
But
Jackie.
yeah, God's teaching us.
Definitely. I appreciate you sharing these things because it's good to hear somebody's experience and that it's working.
Exactly. And it is working, and walls are coming down slowly but surely.
Good. Good. And like Donna says, and at times silence is golden. So depending
Yes,
upon the person, the subject, what's going on, sometimes silence is just the best approach too. But
Yes, exactly.
yeah, thank you, Donna.
Thank,
Thank you,
thank you.
Jackie.
You're welcome.
So, like Jackie's talking about, honesty and communication is important. So but to be honest with somebody, honesty requires confidence, and it requires a connection that asserts your needs and ensures that your voice is heard and your boundaries are respected, and that you have to be your own number one advocate. And at the same time, you have to be able to hear them and respect their boundaries and allow them to assert their needs. And so when you have a conversation, like an important conversation where you're trying to accomplish getting an idea across or something, you need to get their permission too, because if they're completely against the topic or completely against the conversation, you're not going to make any headway. So ahead of time, you would, I want to talk about this topic. Would you be willing to talk about that with me? And if you get their permission, then the conversation will go a lot smoother. Things will get accomplished. If they're completely against it and there's a wall up, maybe they have something going on or something that day. Maybe they'll do it another day. But if they have that wall up, then nothing's going to get accomplished. Uh, and to go more into confidence, confidence is not perfection. Confidence can be realized better with grace. So, confidence does not mean you're not afraid, but that you tackle it anyway. You go through it, you talk about it, even though you are concerned or afraid. And it means you'll do it anyway, even if you're scared. And confidence does not mean you're always right, but that you'd be willing to admit when you're not right, when you're not getting it. And then it doesn't mean that you avoid mistakes, but that you embrace them. And let's see.
I don't
That's
know
a,
if you see Troy's question there, but
oh,
it's
I see.
relating to, yeah.
Thank you. So Troy says, what about saying something that needs to be addressed and have it mean and used against, oh, and then used against you as weak or for example? That's frustrating because like if somebody is just looking for something to hold against you, they're going to find it wherever they want, wherever they can find it. That's that's hard. Because they're not really being honest. You know, if they're willing to use something against you later, uh, that's frustrating. Unless you could unless you could put up boundaries where you say ahead of time where, let's talk about this, but I want to keep it private between you and me. Whatever comes out of this conversation needs to stay between us. If they would be willing to do that, that would be different. But if you know that they're just going to use something against you, then that gets really tricky because it's not an uh, honest relationship, and that's frustrating. I'm sorry.
The person is not ready to open up and, like you said, be honest. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yet I understand what Troy is saying because you need to be honest yourself. You
Yes.
want to be honest
Because you have
with where
needs.
you're coming from. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the other person isn't ready yet for
Right.
that because you can tell by the reaction, they'll use it against you.
Yeah.
But when you have to know the situation much better with the person. The wall has to come down. There's a wall
Exactly.
there where you
Exactly.
can't get anywhere, even in the kindness that you would give your thoughts about how you feel. There's
Yeah.
still they would still, if they're not ready, they feel like they're being attacked.
Right.
And they'll
Exactly.
use that against you to make you
Exactly.
think like you're the one that has the problem.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that is so common. That is very common. And it's tricky, like you said.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions, Troy. Wish we could fix all that.
Hey, Christine,
Yeah, Bob?
I just wanted to share. I mean, not that the most basic thing is, I mean, it takes, as the saying goes, it takes two to tango, depending on the subject or what you're doing. And I've learned in my lifetime that the only person that you can manage by the grace of God is you. And you can't control what other people are necessarily going to do. And it is um, a, a skill and an art that comes with experience, knowing how to communicate with people and
Yeah.
learn how to break down barriers that there might be there. But ultimately, whether you're able to communicate um, with someone else and be receptive to what they have to say, even it boils down to you just have to realize that you ask for the influence of the Holy Spirit to work there. Um,
Yes.
because even when it comes to learning about certain biblical principles that we hold dear, you could sit there and technically you could reason with somebody, you know, to see a perspective that you have of the truth, and yet if the Holy Spirit isn't there to convict them, they'll
Right.
reason themselves right back out of it, over a period of time. So I know my world personally, and for Penny, has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller because of the polarization that's going on and all the misinformation that people are imbibing.
Hmm.
And so if it, other than the movement and people in the movement that we can share with, which is a little bit disconnected because we're not able to get together physically and meet with one another. But it's this is a great subject that you're talking about, because but ultimately I have to realize that if there's someone near or dear that I want to communicate with and they're not, I don't know how to break down those barriers, and you can't go anywhere. Sometimes you just have to let it go, because that stress, you know, ultimately doesn't help you.
Right.
We have to learn how to leave things with God and look for ways um, to be able to, is with the things you're talking about here, to be able to, you know, find opportunities, even if, like you said, being silent is the right thing. But I remember reading many years ago in the Spirit of Prophecy, and I don't know where it's at, but when it comes to influencing other people, we influence people for good or for evil all the
Right.
time. And even if we don't speak a word, just sitting next to somebody on a bus, we're having an influence on them, whether we know it or not. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that perspective. Remembering that our actions, our behavior, influences people just as much as our words do. Thank you. It's a big responsibility, but it's important to always have God's character. So, having an assertive voice when you're talking, along the lines of what Jackie was saying, we're talking about being assertive, and I'm going to define assertive and aggression also, because a lot of people think that being assertive. Let's go talk about that real quick, and then we'll come back to this part. So, some people think being assertive is being aggressive, but it's not. It's just perception, right? So assertive refers to someone who behaves confidently and is not afraid to express their wants or needs. It is characterized by bold and or confident statements and behavior. Being assertive is an important communication skill that allows individuals to express themselves effectively while respecting the rights and beliefs of others, which can also enhance self-esteem and reduce stress. Assertive communication involves standing up for one's rights and needs while considering the options of others. It sounds awesome to me, right? So this is from the Merriam-Webster's off to Google, right? And let's go assertive versus aggressive. Now, assertiveness involves expressing your needs and opinions clearly, directly, respectfully, and constructively while maintaining respect for others, remembering that your needs and the other person's needs are both important. Where aggressiveness involves expressing your needs and opinions in a forceful, often hostile, and disrespectful way, potentially infringing on the rights and feelings of others, trying to control the behavior of others and putting your needs first without consideration of the other person's needs. So, a lot of times, a woman just expressing her needs and opinions will be considered aggressive, but that's not aggressive. If you're putting your needs, being respectful, putting your needs out there, being direct and respectful, that's not being aggressive. Uh, but if you're not being respectful and you're not taking into consideration the other person's feelings and how you're infringing on somebody else's rights or feelings, then that's being aggressive. So knowing that,
Can I make a quick comment?
yeah, please.
Uh, as you were reading the description of assertiveness,
Uh-huh.
did you hear the equality in it?
I did, right? To me,
Yeah,
assertive does sound like it has a lot of equality in it as opposed to being aggressive.
because it
Yeah.
said to be aware of how did it say? It said be aware of your needs, but also the needs of others.
Yeah. Respecting the,
Hmm.
yeah, which, so
Yeah,
right here, whoops, wrong one.
that that's all I had.
Thank you. I appreciate you putting that in there because I heard it
I
when I
hope
was
I
reading
I hope I wasn't too assertive.
it. You're funny. So did everybody else hear the equality in that definition of assertive? I'll read it again. So
Oh,
assertive,
yes.
isn't
It's
that great?
beautiful.
Yeah. So being assertive is treating each other with equality, right? As opposed to being aggressive. It's pretty cool, amazing. Troy says acceptance of someone being unhealthy and unwilling to see it reflects grace, and silence is best for your own sake. Yeah, I agree.
I have another question for you, Christine.
Yeah.
I'm just opening up the floor, not directly for you to answer, but and if there's no answer for us to think about as well. Um, Same question, different side of the coin. What about trying to reason with others that are always right in their minds and there's no openness? How do you, I mean, I would say for me,
Mhm.
if you know that that's the situation, again, silence is blessed
I agree.
because they're always
There's
right. Yeah,
yeah,
the defense is going to go up.
yes. Yeah, I agree. There's certain people that there's no talking to them. They are set and that's it. And if you know them, then you know it, right? There's certain people in my life that there's just no point. in trying to say anything because they have their own opinion. Their opinion is all that matters. You're either on board, their opinion is you're either on board with me, or you're against me. And there's just no talking to certain people. And, that's it. And yeah, does anybody else have any feedback on that? Do you have a way to get to them that I know like people who's narcissistic, there's just no talking to them.
Eventually just have to say, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to
Yeah,
just walk away.
yeah, it's
You
true
have to just,
because you have to have
that's,
boundaries to protect
yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
And it doesn't stop them from continuing to come back at you and forcing opinions. And I'm talking about a family member right now.
right.
You
It
know,
never ends. Linda, sorry to cut in, Christine, but it never ends. It
when
may
you have
break,
when you
it may
have
break for
kids
now.
and when you have kids and a spouse passes away,
Uh-huh.
they both want to tell you how to live your life. They both want to force it down your throat. You're not doing this right or that right. You need to do something different. Or everybody's going to force their opinions down your throat
True, true.
that you don't, you have no idea what you're doing. Or, and, I don't understand a lot about what's going on right now, the things I'm trying to handle. And I do ask them for help. The difference is if I ask for help and I ask for something specifically, that's what I want help with. And it always turns into, but you're ignoring this other thing that is, and it might be important, but it's not what I'm interested in right now because I can only handle so much at a time because I'm juggling a million things. But it doesn't stop the leeches from coming out of the woodwork, um, trying to just force you to go this way or that way, and it never ends. It just continues and continues, and it has to do with their anxiety over what's my future, my situation at the moment, where everything's in confusion and whatever. It doesn't stop people, especially family members, I guess. It's not like my neighbors are jumping down my throat about anything. Or, sometimes my friends will get opinionated, but it's not like everybody around me is coming at me about this, that, and the other thing. It's just close family members. Like they try to control your life and tell you what to do, or that everything you're doing is wrong, and you can't tell them anything. You
It,
can't tell them back off. I'm not interested right now. Some
why?
other time. Why? It's
Yeah,
not that I don't say it. It's just they don't buy it.
they won't listen.
No. And the younger son he was diagnosed with ADHD. And my husband and I were sure for years he's oppositional defiant. This all goes back to trauma of losing his father and how he grew up when he was young, I'm sure. And based on a book I read on trauma that somebody else recommended in the group. But so that adds to the difficulty of communication immensely.
Sure.
It's been a problem for years. And Ron actually broke through the barriers.
Amen.
And they got into a relationship at some point, stepfather, stepson type of thing. And I was kind of on the outside of all that all the time. And then when Ron passed away, he was like, oh God, all I'm left with is you. I have no idea how to communicate with you, which is sad, and he did express some, one day he expressed some sympathy for me, came home, gave me a hug, I don't know what brought it out. Said, um, I forget what he said, but it's rare. And he can be perfectly normal around other people. Like when he was at the funeral, everybody's impressed, but when it's just me and him,
Oh,
all the old baggage comes out of the past, and communication problems and crap from when he was a teenager and a kid. And all you can do at some point is like walk away, go in your room, shut the door, because you don't know what to do.
yeah.
Or
Is
the other person gives up in frustration and goes in the basement.
have they
Whatever.
ever have they ever gone to counseling to deal with some of those old issues?
No. See, when their father passed away, this was back in the early 90s, 94. We didn't have all these online support groups like we have now. I mean, all I got to do is click a button, and I'm in a widow's support group or two or three. And finally, there's people that totally get everything. Because you can tell your neighbor or even your close relatives and whatever what you're going through, but they ain't not going to get it. And I didn't have that back when I was 30 years old. They didn't have anything either. And I remember asking about it somewhere, and we weren't directed to a support group. We weren't, no. It was just get on with your life. You know, I had to. I mean, I had two kids. I couldn't sit around sulking or anything. We just got on with life, and there was no counseling. And Chris probably could use counseling in regard to not only Ron's passing, but other things in the past 10 years. But now it's easy. There's things available out there, even
Yeah.
if it's just online and virtual. But that's the only people who are really going to get or even want to listen to what you got to say about it all are people who've been through the same thing. I mean, that's my conclusion.
True.
That's where you're going to really meet head to head. Whatever your circumstance is, whatever trauma you've been through, the people who've been through the same thing, like Virginia Giuffre is a great example. All the women that went through the same garbage she did, they came out of the woodwork when she came along and got exposed. And now they found this strength and comfort in their numbers, and we're able to move away from the fear as well as denial or whatever you go through when you go through something like that. I don't know what it's like to be raped or molested and things that trafficked and everything they went through. I can just read about it.
Right. Finding common ground, like Anna says, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
have to seek those people. You have to find them, which is so easy now.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
Ron got cholangiocarcinoma, all I had to do was click a button. And another one and another one. And it was cathartic. It's like, wow. But at the end, I decided they're all being fooled. Because I mean, some people were truthful up front. Some things I read were real up front, and I chose to deny them. We chose to look past it. Like, okay, this is not curable. This is aggressive. This will kill you if you're not amongst the 3% that survive it. You just look past that and you go through the grueling garbage. I don't recommend chemo to anybody. People told me at my place of work, no, I would never do chemo after, having seen things and experienced things. And that's what I tell people now. It doesn't cure various things. It just, I don't know. I mean, I see, and everybody just continues talking about the same thing on those groups. Like, oh yes, you must do this, you must do that. But the
So
roadblocks that were in our way are also in their way. And all I could tell them at some point was do this or do that. But if you continue doing this other thing, it's going to kill you. And I'm like, I just got off of it because it's not acceptable in the groups to be
right.
straightforward and assertive and just,
Right.
you need to do
So
this.
it's
Yeah.
important on those groups to stay on topic. Just Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, yeah.
yeah.
That's where I failed in the support groups, you know, to some extent. And I'm doing it now with the widow support group. I'm telling them straight out. I'm
Good.
telling them straight out, you know, what you saw your loved one go through is what you're going to go through if you don't get after your representatives and vote for death with dignity and get them to vote for death with dignity in the states they reside.
Well, thank
Because
you
I
for
read about the
sharing.
same stuff. I read about their loved ones going to the same stuff he did, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to go through it too. If you're not in one of 13 states, including California, that gives you an option. It's like abortion. It's like birth control. It should be an option for anybody of the millions of people who really need it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Because you wouldn't
sharing,
put a
Linda.
dog through that. You wouldn't put a dog through that. You
Right.
just wouldn't.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'll shut up for now.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm.
So having that assertive voice, did you know that confidence is a feeling? I did not realize that. When reading this book, he was like, confidence is a feeling. It's and feelings can't be switched on. Like, so say someone says, just be confident, can y'all just be confident? Because I know I can't. Just because someone says just be confident, it's actually a feeling. And so there's that circular thing where you have to do something to get and be successful to be confident, which gives you more confidence so you can do something, and so yeah, feelings are confidence is a feeling, and and feelings cannot be just switched on. They come from experience. And so you try little things to get experience to be successful so you can do more experiences that build up your confidence. And confidence is found in the doing. And being assertive uh, creates that confidence. So if you can um, say these are my boundaries, this is what I need, and take your voice, then that can give you confidence. And assertiveness is an action. So it's a loop. Like I said, the more you are assertive, the more confident you will feel, and the more you will be assertive, creating that confidence.
Somebody put a comment in there
Thank you.
saying that aggressiveness sounds a lot like abuse.
It does, and I believe it is abuse. Yeah, because
I
you're not.
accused my older son of elder abuse
Oh,
in past days based on what I just said a little bit ago.
being aggressive in their words.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about him the whole time. You're talking about aggressiveness.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in frames, we're going to talk about setting boundaries, and that might help because we have to set boundaries in the way people treat us and in conversations. And so, frames, if you imagine like a picture, right? A frame around a picture. You have the picture inside the frame, and then everything that's outside the frame is not part of the picture, right? And so frames set those boundaries for a conversation, and frames can keep the conversation on topic and on schedule by setting what you can and cannot be what can and cannot be talked about. Anything inside the frame can be talked about at this particular conversation, and anything outside the frame will need to be addressed at another time. And this narrows that focus on the of the conversation, because fewer choices can lead to better outcomes. Because if you have issues, but there's a whole bunch of different points on the issue, you could get off topic or get off on a tangent. So you want to like stick to one issue in this conversation so you can get results and on that outcome, on that issue, and then deal with the other issues at another time, another conversation. So conversations without direction can get lost and be unproductive. One frame, one issue. And here's some tips for framing. So to frame up those the topic. So you don't wait until you're talking to figure out what you're going to say. So when you're going to go into a conversation and you want to talk to this person, you don't wait until you get there to actually come up with what you want to say. You want to come prepared to the conversation. You want to have a goal, and you want to know what the outcome will be. So you want to know at the end, the outcome might not be what you want. Might not be the answer that you want, but you'll want to get an answer, right? So there'll be an outcome, whether you like it or not, you'll still need to get an outcome, right? And so you want to be direct, clear, and to the point. So by asserting, you let people know, okay, and in this conversation, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to talk about. And this is the outcome that we would like to see, right? And you start off letting the other person know what your point is, so they don't have to guess. I think that happens a lot when somebody will just start talking and you don't know what their point is. So I know it happens to me a lot. Like, okay, I'm not sure what their point is. They're talking. I'm listening for the point, and I haven't got it yet. So if a person starts off with, this is the point that I have, and then when they're talking to build up that point, to show you what it is, then you can understand if they tell you what the point is to begin with. Okay, this is the point, and this is how I got there, right? Instead of, this is how I got there. Oh, this is the point, And so they don't have to guess, and then they can see the direction your flow is going without having to guess where you're going, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Another comment. Um, I see that what you're talking about uh, in Elder Parmenter's presentations.
Yeah, that's
He
different.
Well, he puts out a question first,
Right.
and that frames the whole conversation,
Yeah, it frames
and
this point, right?
right, and it frames his point, and that way, if people start trailing off, he says, "What's the question?" And he kind of herds them back into the conversation, kind of thing. And
That's
so,
true. Yeah, because he does take you around the mountain, but he tells you
yeah,
ahead of time with the question what his point is. And
right.
if you and so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. That's a good point that you made.
I just thought that might be like an example of
Yeah, no, that's a
some
good
of the things you're
example.
talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope he's not on, is he?
I haven't seen him.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The more
It's
time you
being
take,
recorded anyway.
that's true. That's true. The more time you take to get to the point, the bigger the chance of losing their attention. So if you're using a whole lot of detail to get to a point and they don't know what the point is, then you can lose their attention. I'm notorious for that. If somebody's just going on and they're not getting to the point, my mind just goes off in another direction. So if you tell somebody the point ahead of time, what, and then tell them the details of how you got to that point, then you're going to have their attention. Then they're going to listen to the information of how you built up to that to get to that point, and they're going to know the direction you're going without losing their attention. So don't lead out with fluffy, self-demeaning, unnecessary comments like this might not be helpful, or I'm not the best at this. Self-deprecation is not a good way to start off a conversation. So you want to come in with the mindset of being assertive. This is where I'm going. This is how I got there. But you don't want to start off with, maybe this isn't all that great. Maybe this won't be helpful. Uh, so, and you don't want to go off on tangents, especially with lots of detail. You want to be clear, direct, to the point. And that helps a lot if you go into a conversation knowing that it's an important conversation that needs to get to a specific outcome, that you think about what you're going to say ahead of time, so that way it's not all cluttered, that you are direct and clear. And the more topics or elements you add onto a conversation, the less chance of it going anywhere, of making a difference. Simple is better. So you want to keep the conversation to one topic. And keep in mind that a person's attention is not unlimited. The faster and most concise you make your point, the better your chance of a clear outcome. So don't just start talking, know what you're going to say. And those are tips on framing. Let's see, and then this is like how to frame. So you're going to set your direction, you're going to call your shots, and then you're going to get commitment. So by setting your direction, you're going to tell the other person exactly what you want to speak about, what the issue is. Your words should be tailored to your goals and your values. So your own personal goals, say your goal your goal is to come up with a resolution for an issue, but your value is being honest, right? And so you're going to set your words are going to be tailored to those goals and those values. So you're going to tell that person exactly what you want to speak about based on your goals and your values. And then you're going to call your shot. You're going to tell the other person how you would like the conversation to end, like with a resolution or with an understanding of what this is all about. And you're going to tell how you would like to feel after the conversation. So, like it's resolved. So for an example, by the end, I would like us to have a stronger working relationship. Or by the end, I would like us to understand what the meaning of crowns is. Or, so you have a goal of what the conversation, what the study is going to be all about. And then you want to get their commitment, getting their consent to the conversation and the frame. Because if you don't have their commitment, then it's not going to work. But if you have their commitment, their interest, they're going to be all in, right? So you want to ask them, after you explain, what you want from this conversation, you're going to ask them, can we agree on that? Or I want to move forward knowing how to show up for each other. Can we do that? So you're going to explain what you want, but then get their commitment. So that way they will be in. So you know that they're a part of that conversation, and there can be back and forth, because like Jackie was saying, you want to make sure that you're listening and understanding them, because they're going to have a point of view on this topic. And so you want to make sure that the conversation is going both ways, because if you're just pushing your idea on them, there's going to be a wall. And if you want an outcome, then there has to be a back and forth. It has to be. Any questions on that?
How do you work through it when the other person is being evasive?
Well, that's why you want to get their consent ahead of time, their cooperation. because if they don't consent, then they're going to evade, right? And you could just say ahead of time there's no judgment. Uh, I just want to be honest, just lay our cards on the table. If we be honest, we can know from where each other is coming from. We could understand each other up front and um, work through it but if we're evading, if we're holding things back, then we won't be able to come to a resolution. If we're open and honest and say that up front, then hopefully they won't be evasive, right?
Well, it
Hopefully.
might take time.
Yes. Oh yes,
It's
definitely,
not
because
going to be on the first conversation when you know how the other person reacts.
exactly. Exactly, that's true.
Otherwise, you're pushing it. You know,
Yeah.
you've gone too far with them.
Exactly. Maybe start off with a smaller issue that comes before that, to
Yes,
to build trust and not go or jump into the deep end.
exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Like Anna says, listening is not a skill everyone has, but practice.
Yes. And it's sad, but you have to practice with people. I mean, and you could say they are with you too, but
Mhm.
you know them. You don't know them like you think you know yourself. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And
Exactly.
maybe something comes out of you that, oh, wow, where did that come from? Why am I doing that? Why am I saying that? Because you're learning about yourself in the process.
Right. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not just one-sided. Oh, it's them. They have to learn. And
Right.
I'm going to teach them.
Right.
No,
Because
you come off that way, they're going to shut down.
exactly. Exactly. That's a really good point. You
Yeah,
you want to learn from each other. That's a good point.
exactly. It's not one-sided.
Yeah. So like when conversations do get off track, and that's just the way things are, there's ways to get back on track. So maybe ahead of time you could make a word, a keyword, maybe that can be part of your frame. And because knowing conversations do go off track, maybe you could just say, okay, if we start to get off track, whoever notices it calls off this word and we'll get back on track, that kind of thing. Or you can just someone notices that the conversation gets off track, you can state the obvious and just say we're getting off track, and then get back into the frame, back on topic. And then, but sometimes the conversation goes off the rails a little bit, and so uh, sometimes there could be personal attacks or past grievances brought up. And this tactic is used to deflect from the issue or gain an upper hand. And when this happens, it's critical to recognize the shift away from productive dialogue and steer the conversation back into frame. Now, one important thing is if you're going to make any headway in a conversation, you have to come into it honestly without your own grievances. You have to let that go ahead of time so that way you can make a resolution, because people sense things. There's you can't like just uh hide that kind of stuff. So you really do have to come into it with honesty. But if you're the person who takes the conversation off the rails, you can, and you notice it, just apologize for what you said to derail the conversation. Say something like, "I'm sorry, I should not have said that," or "I'm sorry, I raised my voice," and then follow with words that convey distance from the goal. That was unhelpful. So I'm sorry, I should not have said that. It was unhelpful, or that's not what you agreed to. So, acknowledge that it's outside the frame and that you shouldn't have said it, you shouldn't have gone off topic. And then immediately pick up from where y'all left off before things went off out of the frame. But then if the other person took it off the rails, um, this happens when they want to take the spotlight off themselves and turn it onto you, or to level the playing field. Example, like if they say something like, really, what about when you did that same thing 3 weeks ago? And so but you have to engage control before, when they go up that way, you engage control of your body, take a breath, breathe to minimize your ignition so you don't mirror what they're saying, so you don't raise your anger or your agitation or anything. Take a deep breath, and to prevent reacting to what they were saying, and keeps the conversation from spiraling. So you can say with a calm, controlled words, and take a conversational breath, try these phrases. I hear your points. I need to finish the conversation we started. And if needed, that we can come back and address that comment later. Or something like, stay with me, hear me out. And if we need to, we can come back to that. Or I agree that it's worth talking about. Let's focus on this one issue at a time and then come back later, right? So the key to these approaches is to first acknowledge what they said, then controlling your response in a way that refocuses on the topic. And what you cannot do is dismiss their comments. You can't just be dismissive, because then they'll just shut down, right? So you can't just say, that's not the point, or you're just deflecting. You have to acknowledge what they said and then come back to what is being talked about. So to summarize, to acknowledge, then hold or get back on track. Okay, and I think that's as far as I was going to go today. Any comments?
Very helpful, Christine. Thank you for presenting. I just see in these last points here, staying on point, trying to, yeah. I mean, that takes practice for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And recognizing when you're in this,
Yeah.
And I find it depends too on the subject. It might be, oh, it's finances. Oh, that gets really touchy there.
Yeah.
If it's all about finances.
Yeah.
Or somebody telling you how you should spend your money.
Yeah.
And what you should do with it.
Yeah, and you can start off with that when you're explaining the framework, say, ahead of time, I know this is a touchy subject. I know that we have emotions connected to that, but we have a goal of, balancing this all out. So the better we work together, the easier it will be for us to come to a conclusion, to get through this quickly, and to stay on point. So acknowledge it ahead of time that this is a touchy subject. And
exactly.
Yeah. Well,
very helpful.
Choices.
Yeah,
go ahead, Troy.
Oh, sorry, Troy. Go ahead.
Are you finished, Jackie?
Yeah, I was just going to say to wrap it up there that as we're practicing, with these thoughts, but we're not going, okay, number one, I have to do this. Number two, I have to do that.
Right.
Oh, I forgot that step. Why did I say that?
Right.
So, keep it right. Easy
keep it
and
simple.
to the point of, like it's just natural.
Yeah.
It's natural to do that.
Exactly.
To say this and this is what was said, and not making a list. Oh, now I have to say that. No, I better not say this.
And just remember breathing too, because the breathing will stay, hopefully keep you calm, and you want to stay controlled, because you don't want to project a lot of emotion, because you don't want them to mirror you either, right? I mean, you want them to mirror you if you're being calm, but you don't want to come up with emotion or agitation, because you want everything to be calm.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Troy?
Troy.
Oh, thank you. This may come off or sound like cliche, but there's beauty in our painful relationships. This dynamic of push and pull, because to me, it teaches me personally, this is my experience. Okay, this hurts me. So if I do that to the other person, it hurts.
Yeah.
So there's beauty that comes out of this dynamic,
Yeah.
you know.
I agree.
If we draw the substance, the good, the beauty from it.
Hmm. I agree. It's a good point. Thank you, Troy. Any other comments?
Hey, Christine,
Yeah.
I
How
just
about?
wanted to add, we're sitting here talking about how we can communicate with another human being and to be able to find um, satisfaction, common ground, and to be mutually benefited.
Mhm.
And as Troy started to say, when you look at it with God, I often look at how God is how they're trying to communicate with us and how patient they are and trying to work with us and finding the right time. And ultimately, we have the power of choice. And I'm thoroughly convinced at this point in my life that depending on someone's, we all have different length of time or experiences in whatever probationary life we have here on this earth. And yet I realize that the Holy Spirit knows when a person has exhausted their opportunities or they have shirked or ignored opportunities where they could have done things. And it's all about the power of choice. It's all about all of us having our own autonomy. And I'm convinced at this point that God doesn't close anybody's probation. People close their own probation.
Mhm.
And God has to live with those results.
Yeah,
So
that makes
thank you.
sense. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. It's a good point. Anyone else? Was it
Um, I wanted to say something.
okay?
Um, I thought I was just thinking about tact, like TACT,
Hmm.
and also reasoning, like you're using tact and trying to reason with people. And as almost always, relatives are the most difficult. But these things we just have to apply it with everyone around us at work, at wherever we find them, right?
Hmm.
And when I was thinking about tact, the other word that came to my mind is touch. And just trying to picture or imagine how Jesus dealt with people when he was here. And he was always using, every uh, way to touch people through his words, how he was communicating with them in a way that they would respond.
Hmm.
And thank you for this presentation, just reminding us how we have to learn how to talk to people. And
Yeah.
it's a challenge for me. I know it's a challenge every day. And I feel also very happy how I had to deal with an encounter at work.
Oh yeah.
And after it was all said and done, I I felt proud of myself actually because I was being assertive. I was not being aggressive. I was being assertive, and it felt good because I think that I know that God wants us to um, like say what you know it's right, but in a way that it's not, that nobody can, fight against it. But it's a challenge. So
Yeah,
we need to
commu
pray more. We need to pray more every day
yeah.
for this. I know I need it big time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I agree. Communication is not easy, and it's why we were created to be God's counterpart, to communicate, to talk with God. But over the 6,000 years of sin, communication has gotten really hard, and I am looking forward to the blessing of having this all be repaired, restored. But for now, we have to learn here and just really recognize that our words are important, and the way we treat others is very important. So thank you all for listening.
Can I
I
make
don't,
a comment?
yes, please. Hi, Carol. Good to see
Hello.
you.
It's good to see you also, and I thank you for this study.
Welcome.
I have this article. It's letter 104, August the 4th, 1901, to E.K. Beeman, and it's called Words Are Important. And it also has Psalms 19:14. It says, we all need to study the life of Christ and the lessons he gave, that we may know how to conduct ourselves in our relation with one another. Cherish the soothing influence, pardon me, excuse me again. Cherish the soothing influence of the Spirit of God. Remember that speech is a talent of great value if used aright, and that out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. Remember also that by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Unadvised words often create difficulties which otherwise would not exist. We are placed in this world to be children of God and to prepare for the future immortal life. Speak no unkind, thoughtless words as you associate in family relationship. Be careful to speak kind, tender words which will comfort and encourage. Do not forget the little acts of kindness which do so much to help the member of the family who is struggling with infirmities which no one but himself can understand. It does not pay to persist in having one's own way, to be unwilling to yield in the little things which are of small consequence, thus bringing bitterness and wrath into the home. Life is too short, too full of sorrow. We have no time to spare for the bruising of any sore, tempted heart. Let each one be kind and considerate of the other. Never let the sun go down upon your wrath. Never close your eyes in sleep without making right the little pettish difficulties which hurt and bruise the soul. When you are tempted to think or speak unwisely, kneel wherever you are and pray till you find rest in Jesus. I am sure that he will not leave you or forsake you. You may scorn yourself because of your passionate utterances, but remember that Jesus pities you and that he will heal you, body and soul, if you will do his bidding. Here is his word to you. Let him take hold of my strength, that he may make peace with me, and he shall make peace with me. Isaiah 27:5. Jesus desires to make celestial harmony in your soul. Read his words not with discouragement, but with confidence and hope. Listen to the blessed words which God speaks to you. Walking with Christ means to believe that though unseen, Christ is walking with you. And again, that's a letter 104, August the 4th, 1901 to E.K. Beeman.
Wow, thank you, Carol. That was very profound. Thank you for reading that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it's 9:30. So let's go ahead and say a prayer, and then we have a hymn. Let's see, where's that? The hymn will be Wonderful Words of Life. So I'll go ahead and say a prayer. Dear Heavenly God, we are so grateful for all that you teach us, for your kindness, for your love and mercy and grace. We thank you for being here with us today, and I pray, Lord, that you'll answer all the questions that did not get answered in the chat. Please help the individuals to get the answer that they need. And we're ever so grateful for you being here with us and to teaching us communication. And we look forward to being in heaven and to be able to communicate with you directly. Thank you for the Sabbath. And we pray all this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus. Amen.